situation that happened in Ghana with the Ghana Air Force chopper. The crash is what you are seeing here, the picture of the crash that has claimed the lives of, some men in Ghana. The remains of Ghana Air Force helicopter that crashed at, Ashanti region yesterday. Thoughts and prayers are with them. Yeah, that's how fickle life can be. This time you are there in people's faces, the next you might not be.
Yeah, and they probably had, appointments, they had meetings, they had a schedule, they would do this.
Obviously,
when they took off from
somebody
Accra,
in a military helicopter,
exactly.
They have something they want to do.
They took off from Accra, they were on their way to Obuasi, I guess, and somewhere along the line, they just fell off the radar, and that was it.
You could see the thick billow of smoke, fire, and all of those things there in one of those inserts of the picture. Away from that, state activate control measures as flood wreaks havoc. One too many situation, and for our people in Lagos State, sadly, I think they must be used to it. As at this time, with what is happening, especially those on the highbrow area of the island in Lagos, for all your Lekki and your Ajah and your VI. Highbrow area, but then it might be in a lot of soup.
Yeah, I was taunting them. I was saying yesterday that all those highbrow areas in Lagos, they're always bragging that they are the ones. They're the high class. But whenever it rains, whenever there is flood, that place is worse hit. That place. Well,
Lagos is gotten from the lagoon, so water will always be in their conversation.
Yeah. And something else even came up. The Lagos State government is now warning residents of Lekki that all of you guys sinking boreholes in your houses, that you might be drinking shit water. Not the one who said that. It's a report, so don't think I'm using that kind of language. So the Lagos State government is saying, for those of you in Lekki, sinking boreholes here and there in your houses, you might just be drinking shit water. And that's what the Lagos government is saying.
I'd rather say bad water.
I'm reporting as in fact, I think we'll see it.
I understand, but we can't say some of these things the way they write it, as far as the MBT code is concerned. But then it's a serious situation, and with your high class, with your duplexes, with your money and your status, then you're in a big problem. And the rain is not stopping soon. And the advisory has been coming for long.
Yeah, absolutely.
Even on this program, we have read quite many of those advisories from NIMET on how state governments should take
about 19 states at risk right now. And again, Femi, talking about Lagos, that report, that warning coming from the government, let's look at the flip side of it. The government's telling the people that they might be drinking very terrible water. What is the responsibility of the government? If the government were supplying potable, municipal water, will the people have to start drilling boreholes in their houses? That's a question.
Yeah. That's institutional letdown.
Absolutely.
Actually, because this, I'm sure, except you are 40 years old and above, many persons, except you watch it in movies or you are told, you never know what a municipal water look like. Absolutely. Because what is either you are born in a place that you have to fetch water from the well. That is, if you are lucky, and I mean if you are lucky. If you are not so lucky, you will have to be going to the stream to go and fetch, or maybe a well per community, in which, like this time now, people are lined up to fetch. Now, if you are a hole in your house, and then this is what so many, in fact, the moment you are building house is part of the plan. How can you build a house without a borehole? And that should not be.
It shouldn't be. It's an aberration. It shouldn't be.
Well, what can people do away from that? Ghana Defense Environment Ministers killed in a helicopter crash. And Israel plans full occupation. But then, as far as the Ghana Defense Minister, some of those things, you might not want to wish it away as a mere crash. There are investigations
should be investigated, And it's also
even
a military aircraft.
It's a military aircraft. So what has happened? And in fact, this kind of crash or whatever happens should always be investigated, at least to learn. And if there is sabotage, which I'm not saying there might be, but then people
it can't be ruled out anyway.
It can't be ruled out. Now, Israel plans full occupation of Gaza as 130 people killed. This is, you don't want to look at the documentary of what is happening in Gaza. It's terrible. It's inhumane. And I'm not even talking about who is responsible, who is not responsible now. It's our fault, it's not our fault. When you see some of them, obviously looking lean, haggard, frail, and the moment there is a 7 point and you see children and adults, everybody's, this is not the time for you to say, it's not the time that you say, oh, ladies first. No, it's about survival. Absolutely. You see the small child, the adult, everybody thronging on one another just to have whatever looks like a liquid food.
Yeah.
You know the way they even talk.
Like broth.
Yeah, just, the one you call a camera around here. And and that might be what they will have for the whole 3 days till they don't know what. Not even water.
Children are
water.
dying of starvation, Femi. I saw a picture and it was quite pathetic. This child had his bones sticking out, his ribs, his backbone sticking out.
Starvation.
Yeah. Children are dying of starvation in Gaza. People suffering.
And you don't imagine the trauma of the parent of such a child, that they are helpless. They can't help the child. And then they can't afford not to watch the horror unfolding of their child, what he or she has become. Because the parents themselves, they're in the same shoes, and bombs are still flying, and guns are still blazing, just because some two camps have not found a way to settle this matter. Different ceasefire have been called. It will look like it's working. 2-3 days, the whole thing booms, and allegations to this side, allegation on this side. People are dying. Well,
quite unfortunate. And as we speak, we have reports that about up to 60,000 have been killed since the beginning of the war, of the crisis from October 7th.
Some hostages have still not been released till now. Some have been released. Some have still not been released. Some are even dead. There was a situation of one that was released only for Israel to say that's not the body of the person that was released. It's sad on both sides of the coin. Anti-party PDP to take action on weekend next week. Oh, okay. Anti-party PDP to take action on weekend next week. Okay, what kind of action will that be? Nigerians are watching. Do they have the steel to go, on with that? And civil servants used stolen money to build the estate. TFCC. I think this is what.
Yes, this is telling us what we know already.
I want to say, even in primary school students, we know that. What are you telling? This should not be a news. What are you doing about it?
Exactly, it's what we know already.
Should we be, or, oh, really? No, that's not news. Bringing inquiry, motorcycle phone theft to replace abductions. One criminality to the other. What to know about insurance law? That'll be all from the Daily Trust for today.
And from the Daily Trust, we move to the front page of the Guardian newspaper this morning. On the Guardian newspaper, First Lady's humanitarian donation hits 12.9 billion naira in page 6. Away from that, Nigeria may split without restructuring before 2027, Modo warns. Nigeria may split without restructuring before 2027. Wodo warns. You find that story on page 3. Appeal court restores interim forfeiture order on assets linked to Yahaya Bello. Appeal court restores interim forfeiture order on assets linked to Yahaya Bello. You can find the story on page 30, talking about the embattled Yahaya Bello there. Now, it's order, that forfeiture order, quite interesting. They've restored the interim forfeiture order. Well, you might want to read up details. Let me not comment on that. Just go and read up details of that on page 30. Away from that, JAMB sets higher bar for under 16 candidates. JAMB sets higher bar for under 16 candidates. You find that story on page 4. IPAC writes RCEC rejects August 30 state LG elections. Talking about the local government elections in Rivers State. You find that story on page 7. Below that, Ayinde risks ban over unruly behavior at Abuja Airport. Ayinde risks ban over unruly behavior at Abuja Airport. You find that story on page 2. And that's talking about King Wasiu Ainde Marshall, also known as Kwam1 or K1 the Ultimate. You know, sometimes the character, the behavior of celebrities, sometimes we really need to check that. So it was reported, it was to take a flight, it was to board a flight at the Abuja, Nnamdi Azikiwe International Airport, Abuja, and he behaved in an unruly way. He tried to breach security protocol. Normally, they don't allow people to go on board any flight with any form of liquid. So he had a liquid with him, and they told him, no, you can't do this. You can't get this on the plane. And he started arguing with them. He wouldn't listen to them. At the end of the day, he ended up spilling, allegedly, the contents of that flask on one of the officials. And it turned out to be alcohol.
I like the way you put allegedly.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying. Yeah, because I wasn't there.
Exactly.
So well, quite unfortunate, he behaved in an unruly manner. That's the bottom line.
Yeah.
And for that reason, 2 pilots have been sanctioned. Their licenses have been withdrawn already as we speak. All because of that incident.
Yeah, I think it was the situation of, I think the plane had to go off unapproved and all of those things just because of that commotion that was caused. When I saw yesterday, I was telling somebody, we were having a conversation, and I said, if actually that is true, if there's anything to go by, then I feel, and he knows, that's Kwam1 himself, K1, knows that he wants to have whatever he has in it, that liquid, that Fan has said is alcohol, right? Then there is a degree or a measure, a volume of alcohol.
You can't take more than 100 mils.
And
it has to be medically approved, otherwise he won't take it.
If he wants to take a jar or even a keg of Tombo or whatever, then possibly he should have gotten a private jet, you know, and leave as one that he is with his boys, and they will groove. After all, people do these things in a jet.
You know, forfeited stuff at the airport. Just, you know, body lotion. I mean, they said no, you can't take this.
If it doesn't pass, it doesn't pass.
Exactly, you know. And that was it.
These are the issues. So K1 is big enough, you know, now to get a PJ and leave large and throw party, even when on the flat, it happens. But in as much as a commercial, you know, craft that many persons are there, it's not just about you.
Yeah, there are protocols. Yeah,
and I think you should know better.
Absolutely.
Because there is a man that is a mega man. Actually, he's an icon, and he has been in music for years, close to 50 years.
But no one is above the law.
No, what I'm saying is this: he's exposed to how things work as far as aviation is concerned. So why will he go through this route? That's what I'm saying. That it's not just a first-time traveler.
Yeah.
Or
it's
Monimi's road, as they
traveling like forever.
Say. Wow, a K1. Well, it is what it is. Now nobody is above the law.
Absolutely.
And I learned investigations are ongoing.
Yeah, but quite unfortunate. I do feel for those pilots who had their licenses withdrawn. Just imagine that. That's why we just have to be professional in any case. Just try to maintain your calm.
Even under
whatever.
Pressure.
Absolutely. That's the bottom line of it. Away from that, I'm still on the front page of the Guardian newspaper this morning. ADC, APC chieftain warned Tinubu to shelve re-election focus on governance. ADC, APC chieftain warned Tinubu to shelve re-election focus on governance. Find that story on page 6. And of course, INEC too has also warned that this should not be time for politicking. It is not yet time. But what do we have here in Nigeria? Politicians are already talking about 2027. They are leaving out governance and just focusing on re-election, on politics. And the people are suffering. It shouldn't be so. Our leaders should focus on governance. And that's just, there's no better way to say it. Away from that, still on the front page of the Guardian newspaper this morning. Rep decries non-release of immunization funds. Rep decries non-release of immunization funds. You'll find that story on page 4. Insurance stocks jump 10% after Tinubu signed law to recapitalize industry. Insurance stocks jumped 10% after Tinubu signed law to recapitalize industry. Talking about the new insurance bill, which has been signed into law by the president. And just because of that action, insurance stocks have jumped 10%, which is a good one for those who have invested in the insurance sector. You find that story on page 3. And below that, we have another story. Tinubu, NPAN, NGE, NUJ, others mourn, pay tribute to late Doyin Abiola. Tinubu, NPAN, NGE, NUJ, others mourn, pay tribute to late Doyin Abiola. You find the story on page 50, talking about, is that page 50 or page 5 rather? Talking about the passing of veteran journalist Doyin Sola Abiola, who passed away at the age of 82. She's contributed a lot to the industry. Of course, she was the managing director, MD of the Concord group of newspapers. She has done well. And of course, among some of her achievements, she was, Doyin Sola Abiola was the first lady, first woman to be editor of a national newspaper in Nigeria. So she has that going for her. One of those things she has achieved. And you might want to read up the rest of that story on page 5 of the Guardian newspaper this morning, talking about the passing of a great icon as far as journalism is concerned in Nigeria. May her soul rest in peace, Doyin Sola Abiola right there. Away from that, I'm moving to the bottom strip rather of the Guardian newspaper this morning. 6 FMCG firms' costs of sales surge by 24% to 562 billion naira in second quarter. You find that story on business page 18. 6 FMCG firms' cost of sales surge by 24% to 562 billion naira in quarter 2. You might be wondering, why is cost of sale, surging like that? Of course, so many factors. Part of the challenges of doing business, of course, in a place like this. You find the story on page 18. And that'll be all from the front page of the Guardian newspaper this morning.
All right, from the Guardian, let's take through the Punch. For today, foreign investors sell off 576 billion naira Nigerian stocks in 6 months, with a rider. Outflows soar 85% year-on-year. Economists cite Trump-era policies shift toward treasury bills. Outflows soar 85% year-on-year. Economists cite Trump-era politics shift toward treasury bills. And below that, you have this picture. Sanwo-Olu pledges statewide infrastructure at Badagry Road's unveiling. Sanwo-Olu pledges statewide infrastructure at Badagry Road unveiling, and you can see the picture of the man with some state officials there, the deputy and other officials. I can see Honorable, former rep member Musli Obanikoro there as well. And below that, K1 pushes back as fan probes airport accident, or incident rather. Kwam1 pushes back as fan, FAA Federal Airport Authority of Nigeria probes airport incident. See the picture of the man there, K1, as it's fondly called. Receivership row, Igby power challenges FBN's quest takeover move. I thought this was over. But then Tinubu consoles Ghana after copter crash kills 2 ministers, 6 others. And pension battle. Police retirees reject federal government's healthcare offer. That's on the top strip. Pension battle. Police retirees reject federal government's healthcare offer. And Nigeria, US advance in high-level talks over visa restrictions. These will sound like good news to those affected. Nigeria, US advance high-level talks over visa restrictions. You see the minister, Honorable Minister Toga there. And lastly, WAEC under fire as results portal goes down. Why? And I'm sure that must have sent some shivers down the spine of some students that are affected. WAEC under fire as a results portal goes down. I hope it's resolved quickly. All right, we are from the bench.
We'll take a quick look at the front page of the Nigerian Tribune this morning. On the Nigerian Tribune, many abandoned estates funded by corrupt civil servants. EFCC. Many abandoned estates funded by corrupt civil servants, EFCC. That's telling us what we know already, like we said before. With the rider, vows to beam searchlight on real estate sector. Vows to beam searchlight on real estate sector. Absolutely, that should be done. Away from that, moving to the top strip, Tinubu, Sanwo-Olu, NPAN, NGE, others pay tribute as Doyin Abiola dies at 82. And beside that, we have another story right there. Okay, that's not too clear. Percent seaport surcharge threatens. Okay, sorry, 7% seaport. That wasn't clear from here at first. 7% seaport surcharge threatens cargo clearance at Nigerian ports. 7% seaport surcharge threatens cargo clearance at Nigerian ports. Below that, we have a rider. Levy not ours. Customs CG. Who then is imposing the levy? Cost of vehicles will rise. That's coming from motor dealers. I talked about that on the program yesterday about cost of vehicles, how it has jumped, how it has skyrocketed. Used vehicles being imported into Nigeria. Away from that, on the front page of the Nigerian Tribune this morning, 24,000 Nigerians declared missing since 2015. That's coming from ICRC. 24,000 Nigerians declared missing since 2015. This is quite worrisome. 24,000 Nigerians missing. Below that, NCAA spends value jet pilots over safety breach at Abuja Airport. Accuses Kwam1 of breaching aviation regulation. We talked about that earlier. Below that, 2 Ghanaian ministers, 6 others killed in helicopter crash. You'll find that story on page 21. And on the health section, we have pregnancy in sickle cell disease. Pregnancy in sickle cell disease. What everybody needs to know. That's coming from Professor Bosede Afolabi. You might want to read up that story on page 13 of the Nigerian Tribune this morning. Uncertainty in APC, PDP, LP, others ahead of Anambra, Osun, Ekiti. Guber polls with the rider. All eyes on Tinubu. LP banks on Peter Obi. Quite interesting. You might want to read up that story on page 3. And finally, from the front page of the Nigerian Tribune this morning, motorists, commuters groan over deplorable federal roads in Southwest. Motorists, commuters groan over deplorable federal roads in Southwest. You find a story on page 3. And that'll be all from the front page of the Nigerian Tribune this morning. And that also brings us to a conclusion of the newspaper review segment of this show. We'll take a short break, and when we return, we dive into very critical conversations with stakeholders you do not want to miss in a segment. Join us again.
Long, wrapped in bundles of words, broken and dissected as it is. Accept me first. This is the news as it is.
Welcome to Obaoke, a hidden gem in Osun State, surrounded by 9 smaller towns and villages, nestled far from the hustle and bustle of civilization. The nearest major town to Obaoke is Okene. This peculiar town would have remained in security if not for the vast expanse of water found in Pakiti, a small village under Obaoke. According to Para Jijimo, the Bale Onepakiti of Olorunda local government, his forefathers settled in this area over 3 generations ago. This suggests that Obaoke has been in existence for over a century or 2. Reminiscences about the lush cocoa and kola nut plantations that once surrounded this large water body before the construction of the dam by the old Oyo State government led by Bola Ige. The construction of the Owala Dam was completed in 1988, primarily for potable water production to the then 12 local government areas of the old Oyo State. It was later ceded to Osun Water Corporation in 1991. Pajimo recalls that a significant portion of the cocoa and kola nut plantations was sacrificed for the dam's construction, with promises made to his forefathers: the provision of drinkable water, uninterrupted power supply, and fostering tourism.
Bí mo ṣe ń wò àti bí wọ́n ṣe sọ, ó ní ìwúlò àmọ́ ìwúlò ètí dé ibi tí ó yẹ kó dé. Torí ìgbà tí wọ́n wá síbí ní ayé Òde Ọ̀yọ́ wọ́n ti wá ṣe dáàmú. Àwọn ọ̀rẹ́ ta lè fara fẹnu kàn nípa àwúlò ẹ̀ ní pé tẹ́ bá àwọn ìlú tí ẹ kọ́kọ́ dé lọ́dọ̀ àwọn àlàjẹ. A rí i pé a tún ní àlejò súnmọ́ra lẹ́yìn tó jáde pé ìgbà tí dáàmú dé òun ni wọ́n wá láti Ondo State. Wọ́n wá bá wa ní ibi báyìí. Bẹ̀tí inú ìwúlò tí wọ́n ń sọ fún wa ni wípé kókó mẹ́ta ni wọ́n ń wí gbà ẹ pé àwọn máa ṣe dáàmú láti generate iná tí ó ṣe pé gbogbo Ọ̀ṣun yìí lè lò tí ò ní kọsẹ̀ 24 hours. Ìkejì, wọ́n ní wá jẹ́ reserve fún Ẹdẹ torí treat omi ń bí. Ẹdẹ wọ́n ti ń treat omi kó tó bọ́ sí ìgboro. So bí omi bá ká Ẹdẹ lọ́wọ́, a lè fún wọn lómi níbí. A jẹ́ reserve fún Ẹdẹ. Ìkẹta, tourism. Gbogbo ètò tirẹ̀ láti bí ìwọ ìlú bàbá mi Ọlọ́ba àti ilẹ̀ Ọbaòkè. A jẹ́ ibùdó ìgbafẹ́ tí a lè wúlò fún tẹrú tọmọlélẹ̀ tó já sí wípé gbogbo ọ̀dọ́ tó wà ní agbègbè àdúgbò tí èyí ṣe ìlú kan ó lè wípé ní gbogbo Ọ̀ṣun tá máa rọ́wọ́ kìbọnú tá tún ran ìjọba lọ́wọ́ tá máa gbé ìgbésí ayé ìrọ̀rùn.
A tour around the dam area reveals the remnants of once grand machinery, now succumbing to rust and decay. Only one of the 3 channels of the dam remains functional. Despite dilapidation, the quality and ambition of the original construction are evident, reflecting a dream of a brighter tomorrow. Around 2 years ago, a large lakeside party in Osun State captured the imagination of many. Videos of the event showcased breathtaking views, leading to playful comparison to having our own beach in Oshogbo. Upon visiting, the wonders of nature were beyond description. This large body of water, surrounded by lush greenery, has become a popular spot for youths seeking to reconnect with nature. The area has seen some development, with gazeballs, speedboats, and other recreational activities tapping into the surface of its tourism potential. The possibilities are limitless, and the hidden treasures of this region await discovery.